The valley erupted in chaos before anyone understood what was happening. Rounds cracked against rock, the sound bouncing off canyon walls in disorienting echoes. Sergeant Martinez pressed himself against the low stone barrier, feeling the impacts vibrate through his chest. Two of his men were already down, bleeding into the dust behind cover that wouldn't hold much longer. The machine gun fire came from somewhere high and invisible, sweeping the approach route in methodical bursts that kept them pinned exactly where the enemy wanted them. Bravo 6, Bravo 6, we are taking effective fire from the ridgeline. Request immediate. Static swallowed the radio operator's words. Martinez saw the panic flash across Corporal Diaz's face as he cycled through frequencies, finding nothing but dead air. They were cut off. The realization settled over the unit like a physical weight. "Ammo check," Martinez shouted, though he already knew the answer would be bad. An RPG streaked overhead, close enough that he felt the pressure wave and detonated somewhere behind their disabled Humvee. Then, impossibly, the machine gun went silent mid-burst. Martinez risked a glance over the barrier. One of the enemy positions had simply stopped firing. Before he could process it, another hostile fighter jerked backward off his perch on the eastern ridge, falling in a way that spoke of sudden, violent impact. No explosion, no friendly air support, just precision fire from an angle that shouldn't exist. Who the hell is shooting? Diaz scanned the surrounding terrain, his rifle tracking uselessly across empty ridges. Private Chun, blood seeping through the makeshift bandage on his shoulder, managed a confused laugh. "I thought she was just our backup." The enemy fire hesitated, then resumed with renewed fury, but something had shifted. The shots taking them down were surgical, deliberate, each one collapsing a piece of the ambush's architecture. Martinez counted 3 more enemy fighters eliminated in 20 seconds, all from positions his trapped unit couldn't even see, let alone engage. Someone was out there, methodically dismantling the trap that had been designed to kill them all. And whoever it was, they were doing it alone. The briefing tent had smelled like coffee and diesel fuel, the combination that marked every forward operating position Martinez had ever served at. Captain Reeves stood over the map table, pointer tapping the red circle that marked their objective. Simple escort mission. Engineers need eyes on Sensor Station Echo 7. Intel suggests minimal enemy presence in this sector. Local opportunists at most, nothing organized. Reeves traced the route with casual confidence. "You'll stage here at 0600, reach the site by mid-morning, complete the inspection, and be back before the weather turns." The unit had done this a dozen times. Routine patrols through contested terrain, babysitting technical personnel while they checked equipment and downloaded data. Martinez saw his squad leaders nodding, already mentally checking boxes. No one looked worried. She sat apart from the group, cross-legged on an equipment crate, breaking down and reassembling her rifle with practiced efficiency. Specialist Emily Grant, 23, 5'5", quiet to the point of invisibility in unit dynamics. Her assignment orders had listed her as precision marksman support, which translated in practical terms to overwatch and backup, insurance nobody expected to need. "Grant gets the high ground as usual," Reeves said, almost as an afterthought. "Standard Overwatch protocols." Martinez had caught the eye rolls. Sergeant Kowalski made a joke about her rifle weighing more than she did. Someone else wondered aloud if she'd ever actually fired it outside the range. The laughter was good-natured, but dismissive, the casual underestimation of someone whose contributions lived in prevention rather than action. Grant said nothing, didn't even look up. She finished with her rifle, locked the bolt forward with a precise click, then spread the satellite imagery across her lap. While the others joked and checked gear with the efficiency of routine, she studied the terrain photographs with unsettling intensity. Her finger traced elevation lines, marked potential firing positions, identified choke points in the valley approaches. "You see something, Grant?" Martinez had asked, more out of courtesy than genuine curiosity. She'd looked up, seemed to consider her answer, then shook her head slightly. "Just noticing the terrain features, Sergeant. The ridgelines offer good cover for observation. For us or them. It was meant as a joke. Both, she'd said quietly, and returned to the maps. The weather forecast called for degrading visibility by afternoon, but the mission timeline had them back well before then. The sensor station monitored cross-border movement patterns, valuable intelligence about trafficking routes and malicious staging areas, but hardly worth a serious enemy response. The brief mentioned comm reliance, satellite uplink for coordination, drone feed for situational awareness, scheduled check-ins every 30 minutes. They'd rolled out at dawn, a column of 3 vehicles carrying 2 squads and the engineering team. The mountains swallowed them quickly, narrow roads winding between slopes that climbed steeply into morning haze. Grant rode in the trail vehicle, rifle secured vertically beside her, eyes scanning terrain that everyone else had already stopped watching. What none of them knew, what the intelligence brief hadn't caught, was that they'd been under observation since the moment they left the wire. The sensor station wasn't just valuable for what it monitored. It was valuable for what it prevented, and there were people who needed it blind. The valley narrowed as they approached the site, walls of striated rock rising on both sides like a geological vise. Martinez felt the tactical discomfort immediately, but suppressed it. The route was prescribed, the mission timeline was tight, and nothing in the brief suggested serious threat. The first shot wasn't meant to kill. It sparked off a boulder 30 meters ahead, a ranging shot designed to draw them forward into the kill zone. Martinez understood this 3 seconds too late, already ordering the column to advance toward cover when the mortars began walking up the valley floor. The world compressed into noise and confusion. Explosions bracketed the trail in sequence, 3 rounds that spoke of pre-plotted coordinates and professional gunnery. Martinez shouted into the radio and got nothing but howling static. The enemy had jammed them the instant the ambush triggered. Satellite link dead, drone feed gone, every technological advantage stripped away in seconds. An RPG streaked down from the western ridge, the trail of white smoke impossibly straight before it punched into the lead Humvee's engine block. The vehicle lurched to a stop, smoke pouring from the hood. Specialist Torres stumbled out, trying to drag one of the engineers with him, and the machine gun found them both. Torres went down hard, the engineer falling across him. Contact high ground, 270 degrees. Diaz was firing upward at muzzle flashes, suppressive bursts that did nothing but announce their positions. The enemy fire was disciplined, controlled, nothing like the wild spraying of irregular fighters. These shooters had training, coordination, a plan they were executing with professional precision. Dust and smoke choked the valley as more mortar rounds impacted. Martinez saw Grant dismount from the trail vehicle and start moving upslope, away from the unit, her movement deliberate and unhurried despite the chaos. He wanted to order her back, but had no radio and bigger problems. Chin was hit, screaming behind a tire, and the enemy was beginning to maneuver down from covered positions. Fall back to the secondary position. Martinez gestured frantically, but there was nowhere to fall back to. Every withdrawal route was covered by interlocking fields of fire. They were pinned in a textbook L-shaped ambush, the kind taught in infantry school as the tactical ideal for destroying a column. Kowalski was shouting ammo counts, already down to his last 2 magazines. The wounded were bleeding, the dead were accumulating, and the enemy was tightening the noose with patient, professional certainty. Martinez realized with cold clarity that they had perhaps 10 minutes before the position became completely untenable and no way to call for help. He looked for Grant and couldn't find her. Somewhere in the chaos, she'd disappeared into the terrain, climbing toward higher ground while everyone else fought for their lives below. He felt a flash of anger, abandonment running when it mattered, then dismissed it. Nothing she could do anyway. One rifle wouldn't change mathematics this brutal. Grant reached the ridgeline gasping, her hands raw from the climb. The route she'd chosen existed only in theory, a near-vertical scramble up loose scree and exposed rock face that no tactical manual would recommend. She'd spotted it in the satellite imagery that morning, noticed the shadow pattern that suggested a shelf system invisible from the valley floor. From her new position, she could see the entire geometry of the ambush. The enemy had positioned a reinforced squad across 3 elevation tiers, with a machine gun anchoring the high ground and riflemen controlling the exits. Professional work? Probably former military, possibly foreign trained. They planned for every contingency except someone climbing outside the expected battle space. Her rifle, a Mk13 Mod 7, chambered in .300 Winchester Magnum, felt impossibly heavy. She had 4 magazines, 20 rounds total, and no way to resupply. The wind had picked up, gusting unpredictably across the canyon, adding complexity to calculations that were already at the edge of her practical range. No spotter, no radio, no backup plan. Below, her unit was dying in increments. She watched Torres try to crawl toward cover and get hit again. Watched Chin's return fire grow more sporadic as his ammunition dwindled. Watched Martinez realize they were trapped with the facial expression of a man doing triage math in his head. The memories came unbidden. The range in Fort Benning, the instructor who told her she was too small to handle the recoil properly. The deployment where squad leaders kept assigning her to rear security because they didn't trust her forward. The 1,000 small dismissals that had taught her to be quiet, to prove herself through precision rather than protest. She settled into the prone position, rifle wedged into a natural gap between rocks, and began her breathing cadence. 4 counts in, hold, 6 counts out. Heart rate dropping toward operational calm. The scope revealed details invisible to the naked eye. An enemy radio operator crouched behind the machine gun team. The RPG gunner reloading in a covered position, a figure in different camouflage coordinating movements via hand signals. The first shot had to count, not just for effect, but for psychology. She needed the enemy to realize they were being engaged before they could adapt, needed to create hesitation and confusion in a force that had controlled every variable until this moment. She found the enemy sniper first, the one covering the northern exit route from a hide site on the opposite ridge. Range, 740 meters, wind right to left at approximately 8 miles per hour, angle of declination significant. She made the adjustments with muscle memory older than conscious thought, then broke the trigger cleanly. The recoil was substantial but manageable, the rifle settling back into position as the target dropped. 1 down. She cycled the bolt, brass tumbling away into the rocks, and found her next target before anyone below understood what had happened. The radio operator never knew what hit him. One moment he was calling in mortar corrections, the next his equipment was sparking and his body was still. The machine gun crew swiveled, searching for the shot's origin, and Grant put a round through the gunner's center mass before they could relocate. Below, Martinez and his team exploited the sudden silence, dragging wounded to better cover and redistributing ammunition. They still didn't know where the shots were coming from, but they recognized salvation when it arrived. Grant worked through her target ladder with methodical precision. The RPG team was repositioning for another shot when she eliminated the gunner, forcing his assistant to abandon the weapon. 2 riflemen coordinating a flanking movement went down in sequence, 8 seconds apart before they could execute. Each shot created a cascade of secondary effects, disrupted plans, broken command relationships, positions abandoned in search of cover. Midway through her 4th magazine, the enemy figured it out. She watched a squad leader point toward the ridgeline, sending 3 fighters scrambling upslope toward her position. Simultaneously, someone launched a small drone, the quadcopter rising fast and angling toward her sector. Grant broke position immediately, low-crawling along the shelf to a secondary hide she'd identified during her initial assessment. The drone buzzed overhead, camera searching terrain she'd already vacated. The 3 fighters climbing toward her original position found nothing but empty rocks and a few pieces of scattered brass. Her rifle barrel was heating up, mirage visible through the scope. Ammunition count, 7 rounds remaining. The enemy was adapting, moving with more caution, using smoke to mask repositioning. She needed to break their command structure before they could reorganize effectively. She found him through a gap in the smoke, the figure in different camouflage, older than the others, directing repositioning with the confidence of someone accustomed to being obeyed. Range was pushing 850 meters now, wind gusting unpredictably, target partially obscured. Not a shot she'd take on a range, but this wasn't a range. Grant built her firing solution in pieces. Elevation for distance, windage for the gusts she'd observed over the last 3 minutes. Lead for the target's slow movement behind cover. She exhaled completely, found a natural pause between heartbeats, and pressed the trigger at the moment when everything aligned. The figure collapsed. For 3 seconds, nothing happened. Then the entire enemy formation began to fracture. Fighters started withdrawing toward rally points without coordinated covering fire, abandoning positions that had been tactically sound when there was someone to coordinate them. The machine gun opened up again, but without directed purpose, just suppressive fire that hit nothing while announcing a position. Grant eliminated the machine gunner with her third-to-last round, then shifted to the mortar team she'd located by backtracking their impact pattern. 2 shots, 2 targets. Both critical nodes in the enemy's fire support. The valley fell into a silence more profound than any firefight, the absence of incoming rounds almost physically disorienting. Martinez must have recognized the moment, because he started moving immediately, pulling his unit through the gap in collapsing enemy lines, heading for the extraction point they designated in the initial brief. Grant provided overwatch, her final round taking down a fighter trying to re-establish the blocking position. The bolt locked back on an empty chamber. 700 meters away, her unit was moving fast towards safety, wounded being carried, equipment being salvaged. The enemy was in full retreat, breaking contact toward their own rally point before American reinforcements could arrive. Grant had engaged 11 enemy fighters in 14 minutes. 11 shots that connected, 0 that missed. 1 rifle, changing the mathematics of survival against impossible odds. The extraction helicopters came in fast, flaring hard in the valley floor where the ambush had been sprung 90 minutes earlier. Martinez supervised the loading of wounded and dead, while Kowalski coordinated the security perimeter. Grant walked down from the ridgeline carrying her empty rifle, looking no different than she had at the mission brief. Quiet, small, easy to overlook. The debrief at battalion headquarters took 4 hours. Intelligence officers traced enemy movements, recovered communications gear, identified the opposition as a cross-border reconnaissance element, trying to capture sensor station data for trafficking route planning. The ambush had been planned for days, perhaps weeks, waiting for the scheduled maintenance visit that intelligence assessments had labeled routine. Captain Reeves asked Grant what she'd noticed in the morning brief. The question posed with genuine curiosity now rather than dismissive courtesy. "The valley was too perfect for movement, sir," she said quietly. "Natural choke point, commanding high ground, limited exits. The satellite imagery showed disturbed Earth on 3 ridgelines consistent with recent fortification. Weather forecast meant degrading visibility, which limits air support response time. Everything aligned for an ambush if someone thought the sensor station was valuable enough to risk a major engagement." "And you didn't mention this, why?" She'd shrugged slightly. "I tried to, Sergeant. You asked if I saw something. I said the ridgelines offered good cover for observation, for us or them. Nobody followed up. The casualty accounting was brutal but survivable. 2 dead, 5 wounded, 1 vehicle destroyed. Analysis suggested without Grant's intervention, the numbers would have been catastrophic. Complete unit loss was the most probable outcome, given the enemy's positioning and preparation. Martinez found her outside the debrief room, cleaning her rifle with the same methodical attention she'd shown that morning. He wanted to apologize, to acknowledge the dismissal and underestimation, but the words felt inadequate against what she'd actually done. "That was some shooting, Grant. Just doing my job, Sergeant." She didn't look up from the cleaning rod she was running through the barrel. "You saved us. All of us. You know that, right? I provided precision fire support from an elevated position. That's what my orders specified." But there was the ghost of a smile at the corner of her mouth, acknowledgement without spectacle. Kowalski approached them, carrying 2 of Grant's spent magazines he'd recovered from the ridgeline. Figured you might want these back. Also figured I owed you something like an apology for the joke about the rifle being too heavy. It is heavy, Grant said simply, but I can carry it. The official after-action report would note her actions in the restrained language of military documentation. Specialist Grant demonstrated exceptional marksmanship and tactical initiative under combat conditions, directly contributing to unit survival and mission success. The language was dry, bureaucratic, insufficient to the reality, but sufficient for the record. They flew out the next morning, the valley below them peaceful in dawnlight, showing no evidence of the violence that had consumed it. The sensor station remained operational, already transmitting data again, the intelligence flow uninterrupted by the failed attempt to capture it. Grant sat in the helicopter's web seating, rifle secured beside her, watching the mountains scroll past. Chun, arm in a sling, sat down next to her. You really thought we considered you just backup? He asked over the rotor noise. She considered the question seriously before answering. I think people see what they expect to see. I'm small, quiet, assigned to a support role. Until circumstances change, that's a reasonable assessment. And now they've seen circumstances change. She smiled then, tired but genuine. Maybe next time someone will ask what I'm looking at on the satellite photos. The helicopter banked toward home base. Below them, the valley receded into the landscape, empty again, holding its secrets until the next time someone had to fight for survival in its unforgiving geometry. But for one unit on one morning, in a fight that should have ended in total loss, the outcome had been different. Because the person they dismissed as just backup had been anything but